The second way Jesus tells people to resist is to get naked. But it is a purposeful nakedness that plays with a cultural understanding of shame. In the process, it serves as a light of the world. That is a lot to take from the words. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give your cloak as well. So let me explain and draw a modern equivalent to getting naked. Once again, Walter Wink will be our guide. In order to make sense of what's going on, we need to understand why one person would sue another for their coat. It stems from a line in Deuteronomy 24. When the poorest of the poor owed money, a creditor could rightfully take their coat as a pledge of repayment. However, every evening they needed to return the coat so the debtor could remain warm at night. Now, when I read that, I wonder who is going to be so obsessed with repayment that they go so far as to take a poor person's coat every morning and return it every evening just to keep the debt at the forefront of the person's mind. But then I see interest rates that Wealth of Nations author Adam Smith would consider preposterous. And I come across evidence-loaded reports that reveal how the IRS ignores tax avoidance by the richest among us while going after everyday people. It is not exactly the same, but really not much has changed. In this case, everyone in Israel experienced heavy taxation. Rome demanded tribute from Israel. Herod had no intention of footing the bill, so he taxed wealthy Jews. Wealthy Jews wanted to avoid heavy taxation, so they sought to hide their wealth, something most easily done through land acquisition. That said, in Jewish society, land was ancestral, and it would bring shame on one's family to sell it. So what were the wealthy to do? Over time, they discovered that using a blend of heavy lending, charging payday loan-like interest rates on the debt, and pushing the Roman tribute tax onto the masses could force the common people to sell their land. By Jesus' day, the wealthy owned large estates managed by stewards. Tenant farmers, day laborers, and slaves would work the land they once owned. In this setting, where the commoners had nothing left but their tunic and their coat, the creditor brought them to court for the coat. So then why, after handing over the coat to the creditor, does Jesus tell them to give their tunic, the only clothing they have left? Why does Jesus tell them to get naked? In Hebrew culture, public nakedness was taboo. It was more shameful for the person who viewed someone naked than the person who was naked. The ultimate shame was causing someone else's nakedness. So there they stand in the court, the creditor and debtor. The judge looks at the case and has no choice but to rule in favor of the creditor. He demands that the debtor hand over his coat. But to the shock of everyone, he peels off both layers. He places them over the arm of the creditor and says, "This will get me that much closer to paying off all my debt." Then he proceeds to walk out of the court butt naked. The creditor, beet red, chases after him, hoping to get him covered before his greed is exposed. Moments later, the two of them stand before the whole community with the shameful evidence of the wealthy man's greed on full display. That is how you can get naked as an act of resistance. It is how you can get naked and be the light of the world. So what might this look like today? One of the best examples I can think of happened on April 20th, 2019. That was the day that Chase Bank CEO Jamie Dimon testified before the House Financial Services Committee. California Representative Katie Porter, using Dimon's own numbers, laid out the budget for a single mother in her district who worked as a teller at one of Dimon's banks. Before addressing expenses like clothing, lunches, school expenses, or healthcare, she determined the woman, who shared a one-bedroom apartment with her daughter and ate the most basic diet, would finish every month $567 in the red. Turning to Dimon, Porter asked, "How would you suggest she handle this shortfall?" All he could say was, "I don't know." To be clear, A man who ran a bank that made $36.4 billion of profit in 2019 had no clue how to cover a $567 shortfall for one of his 257,000 employees. That is 257,000 employees who on average made his company over $140,000 in profit each. Porter exposed greed and put it on display for the world to see. It was the 21st century equivalent of getting naked.